We always know that when Christine comes along to join us, that we're going to get something vibrant and exciting, which is what we want for Saturdays. There's no pressure there whatsoever. But we're really, really glad to welcome her back again. So I'm going to give you Christine Page.
Thank you. Thank you. You got the pressure on me now, Andy, to perform. This is indeed my fourth time, I think. I've worked back. 10 years I've now been coming to give talks, and truly, when Roland left, I thought that was going to be it. And I'm just so delighted to be able to continue to bring what I'm doing and my work to you here at this conference, which is evolving, I'm sure, like all of us are, at such a rate. My work and my life, as some of you may know, I now live in the States, which is, of course, very interesting in comparison to everything we've heard today. So I live in two worlds, which is really the story of my life, probably several other worlds at the same time. There was a point that when I went through into immigration for the US, they stamped my passport alien, which I felt really good about, because it was the first time anybody acknowledged me. So I was kind of sad when I was given a green card. It felt that my status had been taken away from me. But here I am, standing here very happily as an alien with the rest of you aliens out there. So let's just acknowledge ourselves, and we're here to do the work we're here to do. So welcome. And I would like to start not with any fluffy bunnies, but truly with a place of joyousness in your hearts. And so if you would just join me in a visual imagery exercise, just to quieten yourselves. Don't allow those eyes to continually fall asleep, but you might want to just close the eyes, wondering why it was that you went for a quick curry and you wish you hadn't. Was that third glass of wine really a good idea? And just take some deep breaths through that full stomach. Or maybe the empty one that you didn't get a chance to fill. And I ask you with your breath, especially on the out-breath, just to let go of those thoughts that are floating around in your mind. Questions, they're not needed at this moment. Just breathe them out into the ground. And bring your presence here. You may well hear some sounds in the room. You may hear the snoring of your partner next door. But just recognize these as clouds passing over a blue sky. Nothing to worry about. And let your breath become easy. Nowhere to go. This is where you need to be. There is only the present. And allow your awareness to move down to the heart. Because in the heart, we experience so much, much more than perhaps we superficially allow ourselves to feel. And there is one emotion that we all have, whether or not it's been for a fleeting second, or you've had many, many experiences. And that is the emotion of joy. We speak about enjoying ourselves through our heart. And I ask you from this place to remember, to recall a time of joy. You feel it first. Let the feeling tell you which memory to bring to mind. Moments of joy are usually spontaneous. You can't plan them. You may have been standing on the tor at the sunrise, laughing with friends, being with your pet, with your lover. Feel that joy. And let your breath increase that joy. Bringing in sounds, maybe someone laughing at that moment. Words that brought you great comfort and joy. Maybe it's a touch you remember. Someone reaching out to you, or holding someone that you're just laughing so much you have to hold on. Feel that moment on your skin, in your hair, at that moment of joy. And know that everybody at some point has felt that joy. Even if it wasn't this life. But we all know that a newborn baby, or a smile of a child, or a pet, or a sunrise can bring joy to anybody at some moment of relationship, of community. And allow your joy to spread out to those that you know in your community. And imagine yourself now standing opposite somebody else from another part of the world. And without words, feel their heart, feel their joy. Just to imagine that if you had a flower and that flower had petals, take that flower to your heart now. And let that flower be filled with your love, with your joy. Now know that you can either take those petals from the flower and send them into the air, or you may see a stream of water and you send those petals into the water. Do that now. And watch as those petals are taken away by the air or the water. And see them move around this planet, through the seas, through the lakes, through the oceans, through the air. And see them be picked up by people all around the world. Different colors, different religions, different beliefs. And acknowledge them for their experiences. And now, just bring that moment back to your heart, repository of memories. And as you do so, know you have been changed by that experience, for that is the power of the heart. And then to gently bring your awareness back here into this room again. So this evening, my joy is to talk about mythology and magic, much of which ties in so beautifully to everything that's been said today. And I feel the great privilege to be at the end of this great day of sharing. So I want you to acknowledge this is a great time to be alive. Yay! Do you remember that? You know, I've spent most of my life, if you don't know, I've been a doctor for many, many years. I've been working with people for a long time. I've met more people who have tried to leave than they have to stay. You're the lucky ones. You won the lottery. Many of you have been trying to give up that lottery ticket for a long time. This is the moment you've been waiting for. And if you didn't know it, you were waiting 26,000 years. That's a long time. And still, I meet people who are saying, I'll do it next time. Reminded me of a woman I met when I was up in Machu Picchu. We'd gone up there to celebrate the solstice. It was the winter solstice. And if any of you have been there at solstices, it's a huge celebration. People are all over the site. And we welcomed in the sun, and we're going down. And we met this group of people coming up. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. They said, gee, where are you coming from? And we said, we've just been to watch the sunrise on the solstice. And they went, gee, I missed it. I'll come tomorrow. It won't happen again. Don't wait for tomorrow. Today is the day to remember why you are here. And so my theme tonight is going to be about remembering, bringing all the parts of yourself together. And that's probably the hardest task, because in that bringing us together, it's a case of what do we not want to accept and who are we? And I know many, many of you have done these works before, but I'm going to dig in even deeper and say there are parts of you still waiting to be reconnected, parts of us that we would rather leave out there. And in my holographic world that I talked about last time, there is nobody out there. You're it. Anybody that you think's out there and you have an emotional attachment to is part of you. Are you ready to take back those parts that you project onto others? That's the journey that we're on. And it's an exciting journey. So here we are, happy to be alive. Yay! It's a powerful time of manifestation. I don't know if you've recognized this in your own life. You really are just thinking and it's happening. It's so quick now. In fact, it happens before you think it. It's happening in those moments. Well, of course, we love it when I was just thinking of you and you rang. Someone comes into your life you don't want to meet, you go, why did they turn up? How many of you believe you created your own reality? You chose your parents, you chose your family. Can I have a show of hands, even in this darkened room? Okay. How many of you made good choices? How many of you are still wondering why you chose those people? You will be absolutely amazed when you go wherever it is you go, whether or not it's hot or cold, wherever you're ending up, to see who it was that actually loved you. You are going to be so surprised. Because the people who gave you the hardest time are the people who really cared for you. And you may have heard me speak this before, I'm going to keep saying it. There is nobody you're meeting that hasn't been with you many times before. And when you were up there or down there, depending on which area you started, you all made this little decision, who's going to do what this life? Well, of course, there was this woman who said, I'm not going to play the nasty mother again. And everybody goes, but you're so good at it. We love hating you. So I want to do a different role this time. No, you're so good at it. And in your family, you all chose which roles you would take. Because each of you loves each other so much, especially at this time, you said, I'm not going to let you waste it. I was working with a group, my husband and I were working with a group, and this lady at the end of the workshop said, you know, there's been 3 people who have abused me, and I can't understand why they abuse me. And I looked, and my knowingness, my intuitiveness said, I saw each of these 3 people, a mother, a husband, and a brother. And I saw that each of them, the mother first of all, had come in and tried to give back the power of this girl to her and said, take back back your power. And the girl went, no way. It's easier to be a victim. And so the mother passed over the power to the son, the brother. And so the brother was aggressive towards her. And he said, take back your power. And she said, no, it's so much easier to be a victim. And so it lastly got to the first husband. And he tried to get her to take it back by being aggressive. And she said, no, because if I'm in my power, then I may have to do something. It's so much easier to be helpless than the victim. And once she saw what she was doing, her life changed. She took back her power. She threw a partner out that she had been allowing to be aggressive towards her. She changed her work. She decided she didn't want to keep care of people who were helpless, because all she was doing was projecting out there what she couldn't deal with in here. Our work is a manifestation of our own needs. When we realize where we are, we often need to change our job. I remember working with people who work with the homeless. I say, well, who's homeless? If you work with the poverty, who's in poverty? That may sound so simplistic, but I truly say you don't make any mistakes. If you want to understand why you're here, look at your family. That should keep you going for a while. And especially your siblings who will express parts of you, your last 3 generations. And if again you're having troubles, look at the illnesses in your family, because they tell you what you're here for. And it isn't to have a more heart disease or more cancer. It's to break a cycle. And that's the biggest challenge for us all. To make those steps, because so much easier just to say, but my family's always been like this. But this life, you've come to make a change, knowing that when you make a change, you change the next 7 generations to come. Now that's putting pressure on you. So this time of manifestation means if you chose your family, you also chose your illness. And I know I've got in this room a number of caregivers, takers as well, members of the health professions. And I'm just saying to you, we need to recognize, as I did as a doctor, that nobody makes a mistake in terms of illness. If you have chosen an illness, I need to work with you and ask yourself, which direction do I need to take it? Because we're still hearing so many people say, fancy you getting sick, I thought you were so spiritual. I need to give you a homeopathic remedy, a herb, I need to fix you. I'm saying let's stop fixing people and find out why they chose as a highly enlightened soul to bring this in their way so that we can really move them in the direction they want to go. That's a very different way of working, and it takes time. So, what do we know? We've talked a lot, obviously, the whole conference about crop formations. Symbols are doorways into our remembering. The challenge is, at this moment in time, and I'm going to tell you why it's so important, we're pulling in every damn symbol out there. And I have to tell you, there's nobody up there saying, this is a good one, that's a bad one, this is a good one, that's a bad one. They're saying, you want symbols? Here's symbols. There's no discernment because literally we're open to the collective consciousness. Everything that's ever been thought or said is coming our way. Does that mean we should barricade ourselves and say, I don't want any of it? No, you need to say, now which ones are mine? I'll take that one. And I'm going to say that which you resonate with is your learning, your remembering. And that's so true. We often go to a site and you say, I don't like this crop formation, but I like that one. It doesn't matter if somebody is making them in humanoid form or an ET form or who's making them. They're symbols. And the reason I believe they're slowing down is that we now need to work with what we've been given. Not keep, as someone said, waiting for something else to happen. And those of you who have come across Bruce Lipton's work has that same potential. Bruce speaks about it's not what goes on in your DNA or your genes that make the matter, it's what's on the receptor sites, what is on your cell membrane. What is it you're calling in? And when it's met, it will stop being there anymore for you. So that at this time, we would say people are symbols. And in the hardest way, what we want to understand is that in the end of the day, we are everything. You are everything. You are everybody in this room. You are all the people that we've been speaking about today. That is the collective consciousness that you chose this life, is to know yourself fully, and in knowing yourself fully, you know God. That's a powerful message you've been calling in. And so we have all these wonderful shapes, and for some of us, we would say, this one means more than another one. It doesn't matter. The question is, what are you going to do with it? How is it affecting you? And what we need to be aware of, that at this moment in time, probably more than we are calling in phenomena. And phenomena don't have any sort of discernment, as I say, as to what they're fed. They're just coming. I see there's going to be a future of phenomena. And we're going to say, wow, that person can do that. They must be powerful. The question you've got to ask yourself is, so what? What is it about them? We've given so much power to people who have phenomena-based experiences. And phenomena are happening to us all every moment of our life. And so the question you have to ask, does that help me to connect more fully to myself? So what is so special about this time? And I know we've got Jeff Stray speaking, we've got others speaking about what is this time. And I'm going to give you my concepts. In fact, they're not just mine. They are Major Jenkins' concepts. But the sun is currently aligned to the galactic center. What does this mean? That what we have come aware of is that there is what the Mayans saw as a dark rift or a black road. And this black road is a line. And as you may see, it's like a serpent going towards the center of the galaxy. And so what we're seeing is the sun, and inevitably us, because we're very close to that experience, we are heading along the black road. Now, in terms of what does that mean, as the Mayans see it in many other cultures, we are born from the Great Mother. The Great Mother is the Milky Way, where you see the stars that are around the center is her pregnant belly. And that we come out at the rift, the dark road, is her vagina. So she gave birth to us. Now we're coming back in again. We are being sucked back into the galactic center. And this is a symbol I want to work with. We are, as my dear friend Makua said, we are dissolving, not evolving. All that you're attracting at the moment are those things that will help you to clear up karma. If you want to really move forward, you say, bring it on. Anything that I've created out there, I want to finish this time. If you think you're doing something new, most of us, I would say none of us are doing anything new at the moment. We've all done it before. And as Polden said, we're meeting up with people, go, hey, I recognize you from another life. I recognize you. We're finishing off work. How many of you have felt that in your life? You've met old karmic ties. You're not you again. I always hear people say, I've met my soulmate. I'm ready for love. And then a few weeks later, they're not very nice. They're a bastard. And you think, they were bastard life and the life before. The only reason you fell in love with them, you went, it's you again. Let's do it all over again. So many of us are being attracted towards people who we are here to finish karma with. So we have to be very mindful that this may not be the mate you're going to be with for the rest of your life, but they're here to hand you something back that you gave to them. You said, will you hold on to this, and I'll meet you again in 2006 or beyond, and I'll take it back when I'm ready. Because many of us weren't ready before. We are. We've all been maturing to this point. And so what is this about the dark road? From John Major Jenkins is saying that there is a 36-year period where there's some debate whether or not this started around the early 1980s or around the harmonic convergence in 1987, but somewhere between the late 80s, early 80s, and somewhere beyond 2012, some say it's on 2012, this movement of the sun passes from here across this dark road. And many are now talking, as you probably know, that we will not have so-called peace on this earth until 2025. That this is a figure, if you're an astrologer, you also see these figures coming through. But we want to go back to that at a later date of what that means. So here we have the center of the galaxy. And in cultures such as the Mayans, the kings, the shaman kings, would take magic mushrooms, other hallucinogenics, and they would then travel along the dark road to the center of the galaxy. And they perceive the center of the galaxy to be what one might call the ocean of possibilities, the plenum of possibilities, the potential. And they literally dived into those waters and they took something out of it and brought that back to their people along that same dark road, and they manifested it. Now, at this moment, this is your gift. You are now the shaman kings. We don't need someone else to do it for us at this moment. That's the biggest message. Nobody else can do it like you can. Because each of us has a unique part of the jigsaw. Each of us will dive into the piece of the hologram that we relate to. You won't see something that you don't resonate with. But what's important is you go and pick the piece up that you do resonate with. Now, there would be many, and we've heard a lot about that today, who would rather you didn't have this power. They would rather you stayed dumb to the fact that you've just become king shamans overnight. And this is why the pressure is on. The nulling effect, the ability to actually try to stop your brainwaves, or let's more importantly say, get you into your heads to think that you have to go through your heads. I am going to show you that the way through is through your hearts. And the heart is not, I am purely saying, any fluffy bunnies. This is about a very powerful place that all of you know, to change the dynamics, to change the frequencies of your life. Anything that can take you out of your heart and into your head is going to allow those who prefer to have your power to stay in power. Coming into your heart is what you're here to do. That doesn't mean you're not going to use your minds, but the chatter has to stop. Because that's what's creating all the craziness that I hear in my own head as well as others. So what is this center of the galaxy? It is seen as the great mother, ungoverned by time and space. There's timelessness, a non-local reality, multidimensionality, parallel worlds. And it's subjective and sensory. In this place that some of you, I'm sure, have visited, it is not a place where you can go out and look for something to happen. As soon as you start to focus on something, it disappears. This is a place that many people go half in your dream state. You have that experience of almost not knowing what time, what space. You wake up and you're maybe just, where was I? But it didn't matter. As soon as you focus, it's Monday, I'm here, that's what stops the dimension, stops the connection. And that's why sayings like this existed. The name of God that should not be spoken. In speaking it, you limit it. This is why the name of God should not be spoken. Same as the Tao that cannot be named. If you name it, you've limited it. A few years back, I was in a meditation, a visual imagery myself, and I was watching this little passage of this train go round, and this train was do. And I leaned down and actually took part of the track away. I wanted to see what the train did. And the train went do, like thinking train. And I knew when I'd done this, I'd created a black hole. And I looked down, and this little train's waiting, and I asked my inner guidance, I said, what is that? What is that? Is that the void? And they said, if that's what you want it to be. As I said, is that heaven? They said, if that's what you want it to be. I said, well, it's whatever you want to be. I'm saying at this moment in our life, we can create anything. But when you've noticed, if you go into a formation with a fixed view of what you're going to see, that is exactly what you're going to see. If you want to look, when I worked with crystal skulls, if I look into a crystal skull and I think that it's going to show me dolphins, I see dolphins. If I think ETs created the formations, guess what? I find evidence that the ETs created formations. This is a great time for manifestation, but understand that whatever you want to believe is up to you now. That's fun. As I said, wow, that's powerful. They said, yes, you could actually create a little better than you're doing. The old patterns are going to keep coming your way. Imagine if there was no past and future, how would you live your life? What would you do? You might walk out on this talk because you think, well, who cares? I already know. I already know what she's saying. I don't need to be here. What would you do differently in your relationships if you knew there was no past and no future? What would you do differently if you knew that your work didn't matter? That the world wasn't being saved by you, that nothing was happening? Why would you do what you were doing? I think you do it for the same reason that the birds sing and the flowers bloom, and the fact that you have times where you don't think about what you're doing, you actually just are excited and enjoy it. And that takes a big change. Because what I'm saying at this time is all your beliefs are being put in the fire. Everything you've ever believed is being put in that fire and say, do you still believe it? What if there is no evil, no bad people? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Am I living in cloud cuckoo line? That can be your perception. Because I honor what you are doing. But what I do know is that whatever you do, only you know what it is you're here for. Only you. Now you can reflect it out onto others so they can tell you what you know, which is what we call intuition. But you will only know when they're reflecting it. Have you ever had those moments when you want to know what you should do, and so you ask a number of friends, and you go, no, you've not got the right answer. No, you haven't got the right answer. You know what the right answer is. But you had to ask a group of people to be able to hear what you already knew. I remember people would say to me, God, I was so angry with what you said. What you're saying is absolute rubbish. I go, that's great, because you do know, therefore, what isn't. You know, when your mother says you shouldn't, the trouble is, when your mother says you shouldn't, you do it anyway. She's usually right. She's not the best person to work with, but with your friends, you know the one that's going to tell you the truth. And you know when the truth's being told to you. So I'm saying is, you have an answer. It's a question of whether or not you're ready to take that. And here we see, and this is David Bohm's work, the implicate order, which was that which is still in wave form, that which is yet still in the subjective form. It is when you focus your attention, which is like your fishing rod, your masculine side, when you throw your fishing line in, you then create matter or form. So in our chemical terms, the implicate order is called the one thing, the imagination. The fishing rod is called the one mind, and in that you create the form. The fact of the matter is that I've watched people have a very, very short fishing line that just go, meow, meow, meow. It's like, why don't you go over there for once, or there for once? And that's the story of the elephant, of course. The elephant, where the four men are always saying, what's an elephant like? And one says, you know, the trunk is very long. And one says it's got a really strong leg. One says, I've been sitting under this ship for a long while and wonder why life's like this. Many of us are under the tail and don't get it that we can move. Life's a bitch and then you die. Have you ever tried to move someone from underneath the tail? Just take one step. No, this is very good for my hair. look, it's shiny because of the manure. Or they'll tell you it's their karma. I think we should all play musical life, so I've got a great belief that would work. So if everybody would just move on one seat and for an hour live out someone's life. Because I could always sort out someone else's life. And that's the issue. That from your perspective, you can often see what someone else needs. From our own perspective, we stand under that tail and wonder why life is like this. In a holographic world, we have it all. We can move anywhere. All we have to do is have the courage to throw our fishing line a little further, a little deeper, or a little bit to a side. Just do things differently. And I know that in my life as a doctor, I would say to someone, you know, why don't you go and tell your mother that you're so sorry about mothers, but it is often a mother that they're having the issue there with. Why don't you tell your mother that, no, you won't come to dinner the way you've been expected to do every week? And I remember this girl who was 34 with cancer of the breast, she said, oh, I couldn't do that, it would be easier to die. And I've heard those stories over and over again. To move 1 inch from underneath the tail of the elephant is tough. Sometimes it's easier just to put up. And what we then do is we tell ourselves a story, this is where I need to go. I'm saying, put that story in the fire. If it's true, it will still be there. If it's not, let it go. It just is something you have got so used to, you are not ready to take that next step. I'm saying this is a great time to do it. So here we are, this famous Mayan calendar. Again, I know we're going to have more words on this. Beginning of the fifth world. What does this fifth world mean? Well, from the Mayans I've been working with, they say this means that there will be a fusion of polarities, which means that dark and light will both be accepted. We are not trying to get rid of the darkness. It would be like saying, let's get rid of men or women. What we're getting to is everything is there. Everything would be accepted. It's ruled by the element of ether, the fifth element, non-local reality. It's ruled by the number 5. For many of you who know numerologists, number 5 is the number of transformation. If you've only got 4 fingers, you really don't have the power to transform. It is your thumb that gives you the ability to make movement. It is your thumb that gives you creativity. You can do very little with the 4 fingers on their own. And it is a world of unity and harmony, not because we've got to peace. It's because when you're in a place where there is no separation between dark and light, or you or I, why would I want to fight you? Because I'm fighting myself. That is where peace will come from. When I realize you are another one of me. Why would I want to ever hurt you? And in hurting you, I always hurt myself. So would I not want to be more loving? So here at this moment, and I want to take advantage of the fact that you're with me and you're here for a little while, I would like you to do a little work together. I always just like to have a little moment to see what happens out there. I'm going to say that at this moment of time, you are the most wonderful intuitives. And you have just been sprinkled with some dust that happens to belong to the partner next to you. You don't have to know who this person is. But I'm going to ask you to turn to someone. I'm going to ask you to make a connection. For some of you, I know it's dark, so it might be trying to feel this person. Are they there? It may be you can see them. And I would like you to give them one sentence that comes to mind through your heart, not your head. If you find yourself starting to think, just go back to that joy. This is always a good time to leave because I'm putting pressure on you. So I would ask you, turn to someone next to you, make a connection, and just for the next few moments, give them one sentence, something that comes that may be from your own wisdom, but they want it at this moment. So please, do this for a moment. Find someone next to you. There's no clip. And just to be coming to a close, I will ask, how many of you did hear something that made sense to you, even though your partner may not have known if it made sense? How many of you did hear something that was just a little different? Okay. Little different. We are calling in people to help us. It is known for many of us as intuition, but it's going to come from the most amazing places and from the most surprising people. Because those you're familiar with, you may not hear them. So it may come from the nature kingdoms. It may come from someone you didn't think even knew you existed. It may come from a sister or a brother you haven't spoken to. They are here to help us to remember, just as the crop formations are doing the same thing. So here we are. We are here to become our own shaman king, to align with the galactic center, to enter the heart of the Great Mother, and to be creators of the fifth world. I've already asked, do you believe you're creators? This is the next question. Are you ready to be accountable for your creations? If you are ready to take back your power from those that we've given it to, are you ready to be accountable for it? There is no reason for any leader to be powerful, even if some elections have been somewhat distorted, we still have given power. What is changing, and we all know for the Aquarian age, is we are moving from being fish who follow a leader to Aquarian self-conscious beings who say, I am. It's a very different place. It's a place where everybody, whoever they are, needs to be respected and honored for what they've here to bring. From the lowliest person, what we consider lowliest, to a leader. We will not always know why they've come into our lives. Indeed, I know, I think probably Ian said, and others have said, we will be surprised. I think Polden said this as well, and probably all of them did, was we are bringing people in who are causing us to get our act together, to get outraged. This isn't about being a pacifist. This is about saying, what are you inspired to do because of what you see? But what we are saying, or I am saying, is whatever you take to the galactic center is what you're going to create. So if you take fear to the galactic center, that's what you'll create more of. If you take anger to the galactic center, that's what you'll make more of. I wonder again how many of you have noticed that in the crop formations. When you go there believing perhaps that it's man-made, guess what? You feel it, there's no energy. No, it's man-made. I just could have told you that. If you don't feel that it's a good one, that's what you're going to feel. Anything that you're going to believe is what you're going to now create. That means your creations need to come from a place of what comes from within you to be inspired to do, not because you're trying to change anybody else's way. What a different place that would come from. You're not against someone, you're just living your truth. And that would mean that we would have to live in a very different framework, even within families. Because so many times I hear people saying, if they would just change, we'd all be happy. The fact is, I see people in a family holding, one might say, the dark light so that others can be in the light. Again, you will be amazed who the people are who say, I love you so much, I'm going to, an Americanism, kick your ass until you start moving. And you're going, God, I didn't think you loved me. Can you imagine what it feels like to be the one that's hated? Can you imagine the one, those of you who have been parents do know that. The one that says, I hate you for doing that. And having to be strong, even though your heart is breaking because someone doesn't understand how much you love them. And my experience as a doctor was I was always the one that caused pain. I got fed up being the one that went, person went, ow, to every time I did anything. You know, there's a point where you say, how do I tell you how much I'm trying to help you, even though I'm causing you pain? And that's the level we're at, where we're starting to understand that the people perhaps who outwardly may be doing things that we do not agree with are also helping us to become who we truly are, to be respected. But we also need to ask them to be accountable for their actions. And what I would say is that no leader should be asking anybody else to do that they're not in the front doing first. And that doesn't matter who they are. So if I'm a teacher, I need to ask, am I still learning? If I'm a doctor or nurse, for goodness sake, we should be taking care of ourselves. And any doctors and nurses know how badly we do that. And most caretakers in a similar way. And if I'm a leader who's telling people to go to war, I need to go to war. I should not ask anybody to do something that I'm not prepared to be first there in. That would change our world. And I should not be in a religious order without believing and doing what I am teaching. And being brought up in a Christian world, I kind of thought the first message was, love thy neighbor as thyself. But I might have been misled by what I was taught. I don't see a lot of that going on. And that's really where we're at, is walking our talk, speaking our truths, and calling each other when we're not. So in our ability to be accountable, we are each other's mirrors. And being accountable is going to be the biggest challenge, because at this time, you're calling in all your creations. Isn't that fun? All the things you've done, especially over the last 26,000 years, and some of us has had some real fun in the last 26,000 years. Yay! Us Atlanteans had great fun. Yay! Before it all went down. You know? We did some awful things. But we did some fun things. I remember having a past life memory about my time as one of my lives as an Atlantean, and I was there to help people literally do what I'm now doing in a better way, remember. And I was in control of the holograms, and I had this little button I pushed, and I had everybody's chips of what they were here to do, and I would put their computer chip in, and they would be downloaded with the rays of their holographic memory. And then I thought, this is fun. I could put anything in I liked. That was when I didn't do as well as I could have done. So I'm back here to do it differently this life. This life for me, I will say, has been one where I've had a lot of past life experiences that have come always very spontaneously to me. And most of them have been about lives where one might say, well, they were my darker lives. Can I just see a show of hands of how many of you have met your darker self this life? How many of you have met your black magician? Okay. How many of you met your tyrant? A few of you. And how many have met your power-driven sexual lustfulness? Okay, you can own up to it. You're still working on it. There was a few years back, I was doing a Mary Magdalene workshop with Tom Kenyon and his partner, Judy Zion. And of course, they planned it right next to the Pentagon. And I went along having had this very big experience of feeling an energy that was very cold and very uncompassionate, and lacking compassion. And I didn't really get a sense of what it was about, except it was sitting here in my lower chakras. And every time I tried to use my lower chakras, it just came up and stopped anything because it would have been so destructive. And it kind of made me laugh because people had said to me, you know, you really should find a partner. Well, once I met this energy, I thought there'd be no way I'd have let anything in. I'd have just destroyed them. This energy was so powerfully cold, it didn't care about anybody. And afterwards, of course, I understood it was a very strong reptilian energy. And part of it was because I knew I was going near the Pentagon. Does that mean that they're only there? No. I'm telling you this story not because there's someone out there like that. It was someone in here. And I thought all I had to do was send it love. I thought, just send it some love and it'll be fine. And all I kept hearing was, don't you give me that humanoid stuff. It doesn't work on me. And I was tough because I didn't know what to do with it. And so I went along to this seminar, and Judy and Tom are very much into moving energy, and I saw what the sound was doing to the area we were in. But I still had this energy, and I thought, great workshop, but I'm still stuck with this energy, not allowing anything moving. And I put out a message to the Magdalene, and I said, oh, come on, you've got to be doing something. I've come all this way to work with this. And the following, just after the break, Tom Kenyon said, okay, we're going to work with a different energy, the energy you have real trouble loving. And I thought, thank you. And he said, it's no good trying to love this energy. It's not of that level. All you can do is pass it through your heart and say, I accept you as another part of me. And as I did that, the energy just went, phew, and I took it on board. And I share this with you only because this has been my journey. When I speak of the place where I am, it is not one where I've been the fluffy bunny. I've had to meet some of my most powerful, one might say, but also disastrously socially inept parts of me, who basically had to be met. And in the world in which I inhabit, I don't care who you are. When people say you wouldn't like this part of me, I know it's already in me. Why wouldn't I love it? And I'm saying I don't judge anybody for what's in them because it's already here. But I do say is when we don't own it, when we're not accountable for it, we start to project it out onto the world. Those of you who have ever lived around someone who's passive-aggressive, and they say, I'm so calm. Why does everybody else get angry around me? And you feel them spraying the world like a cat or an animal that's spraying its world. You know that that aggression is going to come back to them. I'm speaking on these dark subjects not because I have any concern around that. I'm saying is when you own it, you will change this world. People go to Africa and people, they say to me, wow, how are we going to change Africa? I say, go to Africa and take back what's yours. If you see poverty, find that poverty inside yourself. If you see starvation, find that. Because whatever you see is what you will take. And you know what we need to do around the sacred sites, and I'm sure most of you know this, is be as the child. Be just present with what is at that moment. Because that's the energy that is going to really start to create in a different way. We're not talking about only being unified. We are saying that everything is as it needs to be. So we are the ones we've been waiting for. Time to remember. There isn't anybody else coming, as we heard. And so just coming back, what do we know about this galaxy, we now know it's a black hole. And any of you who have studied black holes know that the principle is at the back of a black hole is a wormhole which goes to a white hole. My understanding now is not only does the center of the galaxy have a black hole, it actually also has a white hole. The problem is you won't appear at the same level that you went out. But I won't go down that path anymore. These wormholes, we are really just starting to understand what they mean. It's entered through the heart of the Great Mother. So here's that wonderful place, the heart of the Great Mother, this center of the galaxy. And I want to just shift gears here because once I started to realize that this center of the galaxy was the heart, my mind went back to what do I know about the heart? And I learned, and as many of you may have read some of these stories, but it has a force field 50 times greater than that of our brainwaves. So we have an electromagnetic field that we walk around, the most active part of it being 3 foot away. So when you meet someone, you don't meet them in your head, you meet them in their heart. That's why you feel good. That's why we'll often hug someone and bring them into our heart when they're hurting. We have that force field. The field radiates out that 15 feet. And each cell is independent. If you take a cell, and some of you may have done this even in your classes, you take a cell, a cardiac cell, a heart cell, and you just place it aside, it will keep beating on its own, even though it is not connected to any nervous system or hormone system. What makes the heart cell just continue to beat? And my understanding of that is it's not connected to just our body, it's connected to everything. It has an inherent connection, which I'm going to explain. And what was the beautiful part of this was that when you take a cell that is dying and you put it next to a cell that is fine, and you bring those two cells together, there will be a time when the healthy cell will entrain the unhealthy cell to return to normality. That's the power of a heart cell. Literally, one cell in a test tube can make another cell return to its normality. And what is even more important is that when you take two ill cells and you bring them together, they both return to normal beating. That's the power of love. I think that's miraculous. That two cells can help each other to come back into harmony. It reminds me, of course, of when two or more are gathered together, there will I be. This is the power of love. And so once I started to do this work, I also started to look at something that I was studying for a book that I'm writing at this moment, which is about the Virgin, the Vestal Virgin. And I thought, when I was going to write about the goddess, I thought, easy peasy, just write the Virgin, get onto the crone. Well, I had no clue about this damn Virgin. I had her up on some mountain, willowy character, no sex, no happiness, but, she's doing this loving thing. Well, all of a sudden I meet, she's this power ball, she's this fiery goddess who, of course, is also complete unto herself. That's the meaning of the word, the Virgin, to be complete unto yourself. Well, once I got this feeling about her being complete, I thought, well, how did she get complete sitting on a mountain? Well, I realized that you can't understand the Virgin except when you understand the cycle of the Virgin Mother Crone. The Virgin is complete because she's also the crone. She also understands that whole cycle. And so what she holds for all of us is the blueprint of who we are. She is your still small voice, your intuition, the part that just taps you on the shoulder and says, what are you doing? Sometimes she goes, what are you doing? But often she's just a still small voice that goes, what are you doing? And you see, because she's complete, she doesn't have to hide. She doesn't wear masks. She doesn't have armor. Even though we saw characters like Athena, those of you who know the stories, armor herself, that was only during the Roman Greek times. The true virgin doesn't have a fear. And because she doesn't have a fear, she doesn't hide. Can you imagine a virgin in a corporate world? men or women. You imagine you walk in and you go, I have nothing to hide. It's going to change the world. And because you have nothing to hide, you see somebody else. You're a mirror to them. And you go, I can see what you're up to. That freaks the person out who has managed to hide so well behind their masks. When you're in New Zealand and you go to these maraes, the maraes were built, as many of you may know, as a body of a person. The roof of the marae are the ribs. The doorway is the heart and the mouth, and the windows, the eyes. When you enter into a marae, you put down your weapons. Can you imagine what a meeting would be like in either the corporate or the political world when you say, no weapons allowed in here and please take over your armor? That should be the start of every meeting we have, including anything to do with maybe my profession, where I can't hide behind my white coat, my stethoscope, that I too need to say, I'm willing to be seen, because I have nothing to hide. That will change things. But you see, it threatened so many that therefore it was much easier to say this is the whore. This is the one we need to stick on some mountain and say she's just not okay. And we made her, for women, unattainable. I mean, here's the person who hadn't had a baby without having sex. And all we had to do was follow her. Well, that already women all failed on that part. There was nothing about her not having sex. In fact, she had great sex because she was the means by which men and women, in terms of her own development, and also the men that had sex with her, they could achieve their own completeness. So let me say this without the sexual side. Any of us who have reached that place of completeness give other people permission to do the same. When you meet someone who is not manipulating you, playing power games, trying to steal from you, not wearing armor, you are given permission to be in your completeness. And I'd say any of us in any relationship, we say, please lay down our armor. Let's be honest about what we're up to. So this is the Vestal Virgins. And what I saw when I was doing the studies, I kept getting that she's the guardian of the hearth. And I'm going, what damn hearth? I saw the word hearth was heart, guardian of the heart. And then I got this wonderful quote that said, the fire worshippers of old did not worship a fire which went out. They worshipped a perpetual fire. And where is that perpetual fire to be found? In one's own heart. Which made me realize that this perpetual fire was something that I wanted to follow a little bit further. And what I learned was the one thing about a perpetual fire, it's a torus. Some of you have come across the torus, the toroid, but the torus has now become my fascination point because it is a self-perpetuating symbol. And what we now know is in the center of the galaxy is a supermassive toroidal black hole. So I'm going to help you to understand this a little better. A black and a white hole. So what is a torus? A torus is where you have a tangential line around which 7 circles are. And this is our typical torus. This would be a ring torus. And the fact of the matter is it just keeps turning. Those of you who have seen these. This is a torus. Now, one of the issues around a torus that if you try and follow a line, you actually want to believe that everything goes in at the top and comes out the bottom, but it doesn't. Things go in and out the top and in and out the bottom. They go out as far as they come in, and you cannot follow it. When I see the torus, it tells me one thing: up is no better than down. In is no better than out. This is a symbol of unity. This says everything is fine. And as I will go on to explain, I believe this is about relationships. How our relationships would be. Makes you go dizzy after a while, but there we go. And there we go. One nice little torus this year. 19th of July. I was delighted to see that. It carries the blueprint for the codes of creation throughout the multidimensional matrix. Hear me. It carries the blueprint. Like the Virgin, it carries your blueprint. But actually, it carries the codes of creation. How to be creative. This is the manual you never got. How to do it. It shows how does matter coalesce into the denser levels of creation, and how does it dissolve as it ascends into the more rarefied frequencies. In other words, as below, so above. As above, so below. Ian spoke about alchemy. Please know this is the right quote from the Emerald Tablet, not the one that is so commonly spoken, as above, so below. It is as below, so above, as above, so below. No distinction. It is saying we are cyclical, not linear. The idea that our development goes down from our, maybe from our base chakra up to our crown and we're there, is the paradigm that we're trying to be sold. The truth is, there is no up and there is no down, and it's circular. And remembering that this chakra here, the base chakra, is not, I don't think we number them in this country, this isn't the first chakra. If we number chakras as number 1, what happens to my legs? Because I have legs. The only reason number 1 would be here, or this would be my first chakra, would be if I sat on the floor all the time. There is a huge chakra, as many of you know, underneath your feet, if not more. To allow that one in, we need to acknowledge that the chakra under our feet is the great goddess that's calling us home. And it's through her that the transformation will happen. So what is a toroid? It is a transformer. It transforms energy from lower frequencies to higher frequencies and higher frequencies to lower. That's what a toroid is. And that makes so much sense to me when I look at perhaps the understanding I had about ETs and UFOs. I used to, being an alien, I always wondered why we had to have spaceships with lights on them. I thought, why would you need lights? You've traveled across the universe, but now you've got flashing lights. And so I asked somebody recently, why do we have to travel around in spaceships? Mainly because my own people had always said, why do you need a spaceship? But I just thought, okay, let's ask. And immediately when I asked the question, I got the answer. The spaceships are they are portals for the transformation of energy from higher frequencies down. That is all the spaceship's about. It's not about travel. It's about a toroidal system when you download energy. And that when you're leaving a lower frequency, you need what we call a spaceship to be able to raise the frequencies again. And when you do get that change of frequency, you get a blast of light, which is the reason you get it, is that change of frequency. That light is set off as those frequencies change. I hope that makes sense to you. All we're doing with spaceships is the ability to move energies. Because for those who live in other dimensions, they don't need a means of traveling within a vehicle. Perhaps some that are of a frequency that's more aligned to us, they may need that. Truly, most who are working with us do not need a spaceship for the means of traveling. And it reminded me that as a psychic and as a medium, I remember a story where this young medium had been a protege of an older medium who passed over. And the guide that used to work with the older medium came to work with the younger one. But the guide changed his name and his energy to work with this younger medium. And the young medium said, well, I want the one that when you were in that other form, that was so much more fun. And he said, you won't be able to hold my energy. Your vessel is not strong enough. And she said, yes, it is. So he said, okay, have a go. And as that guide came through to work with her, it nearly knocked her off her feet. Her pulse got very, very fast. She couldn't hold it. And what she said is, okay, I'll go back to the one that you were offering me. So what I'm wanting to say here is that the guidance, or what we might call spirit guidance or extraterrestrial help, will lower their frequencies to meet us. But at the same time, I'm meeting many, many people whose frequencies are being raised at this time. And it's causing a lot of hassle to the electrical system and the endocrine system. People are getting a lot of pain. The endocrine system is all over the place. But people are being rewired to be able to meet these bigger frequencies. A lot of headaches are going on. And it really is a time of lessening your load, if that's what's been happening to you. Because what's most important is you start to allow that etheric body, that car body, your light body, to be able to tap into those other frequencies. And you know, when I was thinking about the torus and the 7 levels, because there are 7 circles that go around, one thing I thought about was, of course, a rainbow. And the rainbow is a perfect toroid. It is a downloading, it's a frequencies working together to give us this covenant. And what does the covenant mean? It's the reminding that we can reach any level through our heart. You can go to any level as you go through your heart. So what is a torus? It is self-perpetuating. It's held by forces which are equally attracting and repelling. And the beauty of it is that toroids or toruses, they nestle into each other. Now, where are these? Every atom is a toroid. The spiraling of DNA is a toroid. The heart, a chakra is a toroid. The chakras nestle into each other to create that movement. Your auric field, many of you have seen the images of the aura in a toroid shape. The Van Allen belt is also of the earth, was toroidal. Many sacred sites, especially places like Avebury, were built on a toroid. That's why the moat goes around. The moat is a toroidal shape. The sun, the galaxy, the universe, here's Avebury. The reason they built those moats, because those moats are like ring, 3-dimensional ring toroids. And so here we are, here's my Virgin. And many of you may know that here in Glastonbury, we have this wonderful mythology around the Virgin, the Mother, and the Crone, leading right up to the Tor. So my husband and I and a friend went off to look for St. Bride's Well yesterday and had great difficulty trying to find it, but here it was. We cleared it off and found the place where St. Bride's Well was meant to be. And those of you who live here and have worked here, you know that actually the Bride Mount, which symbolized the birth that was coming from the Virgin, is unfortunately at the moment under private land care. It is not being given to the sacred site guardians. And I have to say, I hope nobody's in here to say, but we actually did go there just to say, we wanted to say, this needs to be taken back into the care. Glastonbury needs to re-own its bride. The bride is there. And for those of you who don't know the story, what will happen is the pilgrims came to the Bride Mount, which again, if you don't know, sits behind the old sewage works, which is a perfect place. Of course, we often find these different energies. And the pilgrims would come and they would stay there at the St. Bride's Mount before starting their journey towards the Tor to be able to go through the initiation. And then when you're not in touch with your bride energy, your virgin energy, this is what you feel: irritated, frustrated, fear of failure, sad, alone, depressed, overwhelmed, stretched too thin, lost, confused, disorientated, disconnected, and just don't know what's going on in life. Anybody ever felt that? This is the message. And if you're in America, you'll be given a drug to get rid of it. You don't have to feel like this. Just take a tablet. These are your messengers. Something inside you is saying, it doesn't feel good anymore. I'm not enjoying life. And the Virgin is trying to get your attention, say, return to your blueprint. The Virgin brings integrity, discernment, no judgment, insight, and compassion. The word I haven't put here is conscience. It is so hard for people to live by their integrity and their conscience nowadays. Again, my only experience at the time, because I'm living in America, has been those who are not for the world, for the war, are against America. But it's not just America. In many ways here in Britain, we get very complacent. We get very cynical. We switch out. So the Virgin is saying to you, what matters to you? What does your conscience tell you? What does your wholeness, your integrity say? Speak from your conscience. And that's hard, even in relationships or families where you're saying, this doesn't ring true to me. Because someone will then try and convince you that what they believe is then right. And I hope I'm not telling you this. I want you just to say, what is it that your conscience is telling you? What is it that's not working for you at this time? What doesn't make your heart sing? So just moving on, the journey from the virgin is the journey of the hero, the king, the lover, and the sage. You know, I thought I was going to write a book on goddesses and then found these characters wanted to be very much part of it, so I was delighted. The hero is the one that grows out of the virgin. The virgin gives birth. And of course, Ishtar, who was the goddess way back in the Sumerian times, the Babylonian times, she was called the Babylonian whore. But Ishtar was the goddess of war. And then when the men came home, they had to sleep with one of her priestesses to get clean. Now, that wasn't just because she was into a good business. She was a good businesswoman. This would bring money in. She basically, Ishtar, the virgin, says, don't go to war, become the hero. Become your own hero. Men and women, become your hero. Do what you're here to do. And when you become the hero, become the king. Wear your crown. Become your sovereign of all your domain. Well, you know, when I started to think about it, and again, having worked both in my own life and others, how hard it is for people to be the hero. What do you need to be a hero? Whoops, I'll come back to that one. Whoops. Oh, I've just lost. Oh, there's a healthy hero. What do you need to be a healthy hero? You need to be able to take risks. Well, if you've ever been in a household that went, oh, you're not going to do that, are you? Well, don't blame me when it doesn't work. I knew it wouldn't work. Have you ever been around people like that? I always thought, you know, especially here in Britain, because hero worship is much greater in the States, but in Britain, if you were happy, everybody said, it won't last. But if you were unhappy, everybody loved you. Oh, I know, that happened to me as well. You hear it in queues. You go down to the post, oh, I know, you can't trust them, no. But if you say I'm having a great day, they go, oh, sorry. To take a risk as a hero is to actually say, I'm not in your box anymore. I'm not going to live your way. And especially when you get an idea, never, ever share your idea with someone who's never got off the couch. They're the people who have never taken a risk. And I see people doing it all the time. I've got this great idea. And then they go up to those people who have those big needles and they pop your bubble. Have you ever had the bubble poppers around you? They go, oh, here's pop. You see it with children. I mean, I could tell you lots of stories about children, but one that's slightly off here, but I never understand why parents say, I didn't want you. What help is that to any child to be told, we didn't want you? In fact, we wanted a girl. I can't even understand what mentality, what state you must be in to have to tell a child you weren't wanted. And beyond that, the fear that this child may be happy when you're not, and to put them down to the level that I have seen over thousands and thousands of people I've worked with. When I said, who encouraged you? Who came to hear you play your musical instrument? Who listened to you? And who was the one that actually hadn't spent time listening and could celebrate your joy? God, I've seen it around the world. You know, when I've come off a stage and said, wow, I enjoyed that. I said, are you over it yet? Because we're off to do something else. How hard it is for people to celebrate. There is a thing in America, again, those of you who are American know this, or those who haven't been there won't know it. If you say, I went up this hill, I went up the tour, and it was the most brilliant sunrise. Well, which side did you go up the tour? Oh, I went up that way. Oh, you should have gone up the other way. It would be much better. That's an Americanism. And I like playing the game now because that's how I went up all sides. Go on then. The put down, it's all solar plexus. It's all about my self-worth is going to be challenged if in any way you are happy, in any way you are more successful than I am. And men and women do it to each other, and we do it from a place of so much pain in our own hearts. To celebrate is what we need, because that's what the king is about. We need to feel love. We need enthusiasm. We need to have mirrors around us. We need people who embrace our journey. And as a hero, I would be accountable. I remember a gentleman saying he'd worked for 25 years in an electrical company, and he wanted always to have his own business. So he got all his savings out, and he started up his own business. And 2 or 3 years later, he was bankrupt. And he had to go back to the business he'd come from. And they all just went, "Told you so." And he said, "At least I did it. At least I did it." I want you never to die with regret. I've been at too many bedsides where people said, "I just wish I had." And you know, most of the things people wish they had aren't big. I just wish I'd just had one more moment to look at the sun. I wish I'd just said I love someone. I wish I'd just made peace with my brother. That's what the hero's here to do. It's to live out the journey they chose this life. And in this particular time, it's to live out all the journeys. This is the time to do those things that you keep putting off to after, to tomorrow. And a king then wears his crown with humility, and celebrates. I've given up gratitude, by the way. I was that kid who was always asked to write my thank you letters before I got the presents. You know, have you written your thank you letter? You're trying to play with the gift, but I'm now writing my thank you letters. I want anybody who's like me who really says thank you, thank you, thank you, because really what I'm saying is I don't deserve. If you're anything like me, stop it. Just celebrate. Celebrate what you have, because I know that every time I celebrate a beautiful flower, a friendship, I actually give them much more than when I say thank you. Because they filled with the joy that I have. And the joyfulness is what the king has. And why do I say humility? The humility is at the ability to say, I am not my success, I am myself. The king wears his crown, but he is not his crown. He has made that achievement. And what I would say at this time is that this is a moment where these first 5 signs of the astrology are telling us about this journey of the hero to the king. This is nothing to do with your sun sign. This is just purely the wheel of creation we see in astrology. It's asking us to allow the hero to be born. I will listen to people who say, I've got a great idea, but I'm not going to give it any energy because it won't work. Or they plant their seed and then they go off and do something else. Or the Gemini who says, I've got all this information, but hey, what if it actually happens? It's easier to stay in the head. And the Cancerian who has to understand that they're not only themselves, but they're everybody else. That the parts of them they find difficult in other people are parts of them that they're needing to bring to fruition. And the king who wears his crown with pride, the Leo. What does an unhealthy king do? And I want to just bring this up because we have a lot of heroes who have never become the king. What do you do when you've never had the guts to become your own king and wear your crown with pride? You put everybody else down. You defend yourself. You attack others. You judge others. You find a way of bullying others. You're skeptical. You're cynicism. It won't work. You separate from your creations. And you patronize and you pity other people. And again, in my profession as a healer, there's a lot of patronization. You've got a problem, I can fix you. I don't want you fixing. I want you to sit with me. I want you to be with me. So be the king. When you're the king, you allow everybody else to shine. Be proud of who you are. If you haven't celebrated recently, today's the day to celebrate. Yay! And that may be too American for you, but I'm asking you to realize that if you don't do it today, everybody in your family is going to suffer. When you celebrate your successes, you give everybody else the freedom to do the same. And you don't allow yourself to put others down because of what you can't do. And then when you've been the king, you have to give up that life. It's time to die. Every king in every culture knew that there was a time when the king had to die. Stonehenge was based. It was built on the sun at the summer solstice that eventually was going to die. and only be reborn at places like New Grange, where the sun comes along the channel, and the birth of the new child at the winter solstice. Every culture understands the principle of the in-breath and the out-breath. The hero giving birth to the king, who then gets stuck in the identity. I wonder how many of you are stuck as the king who would rather take the damn crown off. Because what I say is, just because you're good at doing something, it doesn't mean you should keep doing it. Who would you be without your crown? Because you are not your crown. You are not your creations. You are only the joy you had of creating them. And that's the issue, why the crown has to come off. And this then asks us to face the Vesica Pisces. Here we are, this beautiful land. How hard it is for a rich man to pass through the eye of the needle. That is the Vesica Pisces. If your crown's so big and you've got so much baggage, you can't get to the next stage. And the next stage is, I am not my achievements. I am the essence of my creations. The chalice well, so symbolic of that ability to find that balance. We just wanted to show you our picture we had of energy coming into the chalice well, but here, it's a wonderful healing energy in this place of truly the feminine. The next three signs are the signs of transformation. Virgo, self-reflection. Libra, recognizing the need for harmony. Scorpio, the transformation. And here we meet one of my favorite characters, the crone, with her cauldron. I wonder how many of you have met the crone recently? She is on your tails. Because where are we in history? We literally, after this 26,000 years, are still just in the cauldron. We are letting go of all the energy that we created, the wisdom that was created from our creations. We're calling home our creations. She's saying, I love you so much, I'm going to put you in this cauldron and boil you up, taking all your bones off, all the meat off the bones until you're just pure essence. Which kind of reminds me that several years ago, I felt myself to be a bird. I've been a worm, and now I'm a bird. It was some improvement, I suppose. But anyway, I was a bird, and I could feel this beak, and I could feel everything around this bird. And I was in Hawaii, and I was with this lovely teacher, and he said, well, go down and meet your bird. So I walked down, I was on the big island, and walked down to the lava tube, and here down in that lava tube, I got a sense of what this bird was about, and it was a vulture. And I thought, oh, God, couldn't you be a hawk? No, I'm a vulture. Wouldn't you like to be an eagle? No, I'm still a vulture. I go, you eat dead things. They said, no, I clean the bones. I do not kill, I clean the bones. And it said I had very clear eyesight. I can see what needs to happen. And I realized that vulture was in me in the work I've been doing. It is time for all of us to clean our bones. But it doesn't mean just get rid of the meat. It means eat the meat, which means whatever you've done, celebrate who you are. Have compassion. That's what eating the meat means. Have compassion for yourself, even those parts of you that were uncomfortable. And where does this happen? It happens in hell. Now, when I was researching, I met this wonderful goddess called the goddess Hel. And it's H-E-L. And the goddess Hel is the goddess of regeneration. Well, this was a bit of a different story than I'd heard. So I realized that the goddess Hel takes us into the cauldron to burn away those things we no longer need. She helps us transform. And where is she? She's down under here in what we call the underworld. In fact, all the labyrinths help us to get to that place. Well, now, when someone says, go to hell, I go, thank you. And may I meet you down there too? Because this is the place you want to go. But it's also been the story if we've been told. Can you understand that if we're only told to be hero and king, how only half the journey is allowed to be there? We have been told that the underworld and hell are the wrong places to go. And I'm saying they're the only places you can actually get to the point of transformation and release of your energy. This is where the gold will come in. This is where you will achieve the goal that you were here to do. And it isn't about negativity. Even though I spoke about some of my darker sides that have come through, my tyrant is very useful at times. Even my black magician is useful at times. It's like having a whole wardrobe of clothes, and I can just choose which one I put on. And so today I might actually just be the bitch, which watch out everybody, because it's okay. So all you have to do is warn everybody which piece of clothes you're going to put on, because none of them are wrong. They are all what they're meant to be. But what I know that in that blackness, in that wardrobe, you have parts of you that are so beautiful. That's what you're more scared of putting on. The parts of you that glow, the parts of you that are so loving and loved, that's the harder ones we have to put on, because most of us know our darkness more than we know our light. They're the parts that we hide from and that will come to being in the cauldron. And the last two, or the next two, are Sagittarius, which then says it is a sign of knowing. And the knowing that we get from having been in the cauldron is not the knowing of intellect, it's the knowing of, I know who I am. And the next sign being Capricorn, that says, I can be anything I want to be. I can flow between those dimensions. I am the yin and the yang. I am neither one nor the other. And as we understand that, we release what I see, the gold, the water carrier, the Aquarian sign to me is not about water, it is liquid gold. It is waveform. It is the releasing of that waveform. And the final is Pisces, the freedom to move between dimensions, and Pisces is the toroid. So here I am saying to you, there are three phases. The three phases we have of a toroid or our relationships are meet ourselves. Meet ourselves in relationship to other people. Meet those parts of you in other people that you find difficult and say, what is it about you that I'd like to know about me? And the third part, which is the part that we are still here to learn about, is the part that says, I can allow you to be who you are because I am another one of you. Become somebody else. Walk a mile in someone's moccasins. Become the person, not just think it, become them. What would it be like to be that person? And a lot of the conflict, so-called conflict work that's being done is allowing each of us to live somebody else's life. Now we're seeing that on television. But you imagine what that would be like to say, I need to understand your life, and I will walk in your shoes for a day. To feel what it's like. And let myself experience from that place where there is no judgment, but there's a place of understanding. And from that place, I would understand a much more collective vision. Any of you who saw that film, The March of the Penguins, where I think most of us, when we first saw that film come out, we thought, what on earth are they going to do for an hour and a half about penguins? But that was the most absorbing film about how these penguins, especially the male penguins that were looking after the eggs, huddled together in freezing temperatures, and each in turn would take time inside to stay warm. And they would know there would come a time where they would come to the outside so that someone else could go inside and stay warm. The animal kingdom are so advanced in us in understanding collective consciousness. The ability to realize that just because someone else is warm, it doesn't mean that we then are having to suffer. We understand that as a whole, we need to work together, and that is the Aquarian age. So this is a time to come to your hearts. Become the change you want to bring to the world. Live what it is that you want to bring. And at that point, just in these last 5 minutes, I'd like to take you once again on a visual imagery. And I'm going to use this area of the Glastonbury to bring you through this passageway. So just to shake yourselves a little bit so that you're, in case you've just dozing there. We're just on the last 5 minutes. Those of you who find visual imagery, just go with the words, go with what I'm saying. But see yourself on a bank of a river. Some of you, it can be a bigger bank than another. May be somewhere you know. And next to you is what you can call your virgin. Male or female. It's the part of you that knows you so well. The part of you that's traveled with you for 26,000 years. And it shows you where there is a small boat tied up. And you both get into the boat. Some of you will have a motor on your boat just because you'll want to get there fast. Others use oars. But the virgin part of you is going to take you to the other bank. For some of you, the river or the stream may have quite fast water. But there is a part of you that's determined now not to give away your power. Not to get swept away by other people's ideas. Not to just go with the flow. Maybe you even take one of the oars and with your virgin, you help to get across that river. And when you do get to the other side, you find a place for the boat to be moored. And you step out onto the bank. And you know that you've left a part of you behind that you no longer need. You probably didn't know it when you got into the boat. But in your decision to cross this river, things have already changed. And as you walk on, you come to a place with an arch. For those of you who know the Vesica Pisces, it's an arch like the Vesica Pisces, the eye of the needle. When you look around, maybe you are carrying bags and luggage. Maybe you've got a crown that's so big, you know you won't get through this Vesica Pisces. So I ask you to lay down anything that you no longer need. Not necessarily even people or things, but beliefs, fears, shames. Just lay them down. Take off your crown, take off your armor. And you pass through the eye of the needle, the Vesica Pisces. And you see ahead of you a climb. And it's the climb to the Tor. Even if you've never done it, you've seen it as you drove in or came into Glastonbury. And as you climb the Tor, you realize there are still more things that you need to let go of to help you climb that mountain, climb that hill. Things that have been burdening you, things that you don't need to cover yourself with. And you see the Tor coming closer and closer. And as you climb, and as you come to the top, you enter under the tower, and there is someone waiting for you. Someone who you may, and indeed do know. Maybe someone who's still alive or someone who's passed over. Someone who may be a master to you a guide, but there is a real familiarity about this person. And they take over from the Virgin, and they are going to take you down inside the Tor. And you find there is an easy way down. But you're very aware that as you go down, there is a darkness. Not a darkness that is bad, just an unknown place. A place where you do see shadows. And as you descend and reach the bottom, you realize you're in a place of the unknown, a place where you may consider chaos. Yet as you stand there, you start to feel the pulse of the earth coming up through your feet. It's as if the earth, as we know, is transforming and you are transforming with her, feeling the new frequency that she is embodying. Feel the pulse through your body. Let that pulse rise. And as you do, you start to see a light being given off, a glow. And realize that glow is coming from you. You are starting to glow as you reconnect to a knowingness inside yourself. And with the light of that glow, you see there is a small passageway, and you follow it. And you come to a huge cavern where there are many, many different types of stone and crystal in them. Different colors, different shapes. For some of you, it may just be a stone. But you left this stone there. It is yours. Whatever it looks like, pick up the stone that has a memory in it for you. Something that you need now. You don't need to know what the memory is, but the energy is there. And place that stone or crystal on some part of your body that it resonates with. Maybe a part that is in pain, or it may just be a part that you know needs to go to be connected to this crystal or stone. You feel your body respond. And now it's time to leave that crystal cave and return to the surface with the being who's been walking with you. You find yourself at the Tor, the top of the Tor. And you are ready to do the work you came to do here. In the remembrance of who you are. The essence of your being. And allowing yourself to come down that Tor in whatever way you want to. Running, laughing, sliding, climbing slowly. You bring yourself back here into this room. And once you're back, you open your eyes. I thank you. Be in joy and celebrate wherever your lives take you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Christine Page. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Wonderful stuff.